Welcome to Short Shift Garage, and on this episode we finish the XH Falcon suspension. I've got second-hand wagon springs to go in the back of this with brand new shocks. And for the first time in probably 2 weeks we have blue skies. So let's rip into it. I'm going to start by taking this tub liner out so you can get to the cover that's on the fuel tank, because the top shock mount bolts are under there. So just removing this rear cover, which the fuel tank's under here. It's just these 4 bolts. Get a screwdriver to pry that up. So these are just the shock mount bolts here, driver side, passenger side, down in there. So grab a socket and we'll rip those off. Maybe put the right socket on. It'll probably help you. Got it.
Daddy, you guys just call.
Rightio, we're dodgily on jack stands. We're going to rip this rim off. Tell you what, My shocks are in great condition. They are shagged. So we'll rip that bottom retaining nut off here. Then we will undo the U-bolts. And that'll get our diff separated from our spring. Then we've just got 2 bolts at the back there for the hanger. And then we just got the one there. We'll spray a bit of WD-40 around to loosen some stuff off, and we'll rip that out. So we'll just go. That's the front out. I did crack the bolts to the back, so I'll go through now and rip that last one out. There we have it. That's the driver's side one out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves in that pack. I'll measure the lowering block. I think it was 65mm, but I'll remeasure that. We'll get the new, or the second-hand new leaf spring. We'll offer it up and start fitting that in. Because we have gone to a 4-pack leaf instead of a 5, and then there was an extra one there for a small little locating one, so 6 basically. We are, when we bolt up with our rubber mounts in here, the spring's slopping around in here because we've gone to a lesser pack. So what I'm going to do is, I could take this away and just run this, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these ears off, these bends off, and bring it back to probably about 20mm, and we'll just still use this to locate the top rubber, and it should still lock into the bottom rubber, and then our lowering block will go on top. So I'll go through and I'll cut these, and we will go from there. So we've got the top upper spring mount cut. We've cut the mount down. We need to take another 20 mil off here, and then once we get that cut, we'll weld these back on in that spot. So I'll go ahead now, cut that off, clean these up, tack them on, and then test fit it. So we've got it tacked up, our upper bracket. So we're just going to test fit it now with the rubbers in there and the bottom bracket, just to make sure that we're going to have enough clearance so we're not too long here, so we can buy it down firmly on this spring, so we're not going to rock around once we're in there. Sweet. And that's pretty much what I'm just talking about here, just this gap. So when we tighten that down, this doesn't bend up, because we've got nothing to give it a bit of support. That's what this is for. This is just a locator, just to stop that from bending, which it won't even bend really that much anyway if you didn't have it, because it doesn't even go. It goes tight, but it's not gone extremely tight. Sweet, yeah. We'll pull this out now and we'll weld this up. Rightio, so we've got the brackets painted up, finished welding that, painted, so now we will go ahead and chuck this in. So that's the driver's side, almost done. I just got to fit the shock in, which I'll do once I've done the spring replacement on the passenger side. Rightio, well that raised the car, that went the wrong way, which I thought was going to happen with those springs, but I thought I'd just try it anyway. So now I will just rip those out and I will flip the top leaf and see how it sits, and if it needs to come more, it needs to come more. But yeah. Alrighty, we've got the spring out. Just going to go through now and we're going to show you what I'm going to do to reset the height in this. So with this locating pin, just a third, we've cleaned the thread, it's just a 13mm nut, and we're just going to hold the top pin with a pair of vice grips. Back this off slightly, there'll be a bit of tension there but not too much. Right, the pin's a little bit rusty, but we'll clean that up with the wire wheel. There's no real big divots or pitting in there. Probably should replace these, but we're not going to, so we're just going to reuse this. I'll clean this up, I'll flip this one and this one to the top, get rid of this, so it'll go pretty much like that. Clean up this quickly. Let's get a brush and I'll clean those surfaces, and we'll flip these and we'll show you how we're going to pull this down. Alright, so this is how I set it up, using these tiny little clamps. I'll just get on this second one, I'll bring it down until I get this on there, and then I'll use the rattle gun and rattle this down. There is definitely better ways to do this. A vise or a press, don't have access to those at the moment, so we're just going to use these. Steady, line up till we line up with our pin, and then we just ram this in, and then we'll put the pin in to retain it. We'll keep the clamps on it, chuck it in the car. I'll show you on the time lapse on how I'm going to do this, but there's not much pressure because you can still tighten these up by hand with not much force. So it's moving, so it's not over pressurizing it. But yeah, there is better ways to do it, but this will work. Rightio, springs are back in the rear with the 2.5 inch lowering blocks that came with the car. That sits pretty well actually, I quite like that height, but we are hard on bump stops. So I'll take it back up and I will rip the lowering blocks out, which is about 2.5 inches, so 65 mil. So we'll raise at least 65 mil, but we might have a bit more drop as well because we're on the hard on the bump stops. And see how it looks, and if I've got to cowboy those and machine those ones down, or I might just buy inch lowering blocks to give me 25 mil, because at the moment where that's sitting, obviously it's, like I said, it's hard on the bump stops, but from the centre to the guards 295 mil, we started at 365, so we've got a bit to play with there. If we take those blocks out, we still might just be on the top of the tyre, which should be alright. But yeah, it looks good, but we've got zero travel. So we'll jack it back up, put the axle stands back on it, and then I'll rip those out and I'll drop it back down and see how it looks. I don't have the shocks in yet, no point, but I'll jack it back up, rip the lowering blocks out, put the U-bolts in, just snip it up. And if it rides alright, if it looks alright, sorry, like that, I'll then have to cut the U-bolts down. But we'll go from there, because it's so slammed in the back now, the front's come up a little bit. Don't actually mind that stance, front could be low if you're going to run it like that. But because it's on bump stops, we will rip these lowering blocks out and see how it sits. So I'm just going to cut these U-bolts down, they're all marked up. Because we've taken the lowering block out, we've gained that extra thread that we don't need. So we'll cut them, clean up the threads and send it in. There we go, we're back on the ground, everything's tight, springs are fitted without the lowering blocks now, and I have got new shocks installed. The springs are definitely not happy. Pretty much there's only just 2 leaf springs and the 2 flipped on the top, so she is pretty much dead flat. We are off the bump stops. We do have a bit of clearance around the tail shaft. We'll see when we drive it if we hit that tunnel. But yeah, what's left now is to take it for a drive, let the front set in and see how rough the back is. It won't be worse than what was in there. It was rough with the setup it had in there. It just had standard springs with the lowering blocks in there. See how much it annoys me. If it annoys me too much, I'll just get those standard springs, which I have, and get those reset to probably about this height anyway. Could probably go 10 mil high, but I don't really want to go any higher than that. I like how that's sitting, because we've dropped down a little bit, the front's come up a bit. But once we take it for a drive, which will be over the next couple of days because I can't do it today, we'll get a bit of settlement in the front, and then I'll get a wheel alignment for the front as well, and that should do us for the suspension and ride height for now. So before we take the car for a drive, I'm going to change this battery out with the spare one I have. It's got a pretty wicked modification going on here to retain it, because it's a bigger battery than standard. So we'll rip that out, we'll chuck the spare one in, and hopefully it cranks over with that battery. It's saying that it's holding charge, but I changed out of my VK common, I'm pretty sure, because it wouldn't start it, and I think it's just because the cranking amps due to the compression. So hopefully it does the job in this one. Right, now we got the battery in. I'll just replace this bolt on the positive terminal because it was stripped. So hopefully that does the job. The battery's in there just. The bracket's pretty dodgy. Rightio. Let's see if it starts. We're in the XH a week and a half later, and she's cruising quite well. The back is a bit bouncy, and I expected that. It's not as harsh as the previous springs. We don't have much travel from the bump stops. Max probably 40 mil. So you hit a decent bump and you hit a bump stop, so that makes it a bit harsher. It's yeah, but like I said, it's bouncy, but yeah, it's a bit smoother than what we had before. We'll see how we go, how much it annoys me before I sort those springs out. But the ride height's absolutely mint, to be honest. I think I dropped it an extra 50 mil from the start. It was sitting about, what, 365, we're down to about 315, 310 in the back. In the front, we're 400, 405. We dropped it 70 mil, we're down to 330. So the ride height's absolutely mint. Happy with where it's sitting. Makes the car look so much better. It's not cosmetically perfect, but the ride height now, it's definitely a lot better. It does need a wheel alignment. It's actually driving quite well. We've got rid of all those sounds in the front end, the wheel bearings, the ball joint niggles. So bloody happy with how it's driving. And yeah, just quick lap now. Try find some bumps. But yeah, it's a lot better. That second synchro's definitely dodgy. I've mentioned that multiple times now. But I'm dodging it for a bit, just not really using second to down change. Just holding third a bit and roll into first pretty much, because you can't really get into it unless you're going about 20k, so first gear comes back into it. That'll be sorted out later on when we get into that part. But for now, Gonna daily it for a bit, drive to and from work every day. There's a fair few other things that I need to sort out, especially this hood liner. Rip that out, replace that. Other things to go and give this interior a nice, decent clean. But other than that, yeah, driving pretty well. You feel a lot in the road with these rear springs, but it's not too bad really for what we done. So can't really complain. But yeah, so that's the suspension done. Happy with how it's come out. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel please.